that Joe Biden got us through the pandemic when Donald Trump was telling us to inject bleach. Yeah. We've ignored the fact that this guy has created more jobs than any president in living memory. We've ignored the fact that when other folks were talking about infrastructure, this is the president that got it done. And I will tell you this, I don't give a damn if he did it with a stutter. I don't give a damn if he did it while walking slow. All I care is that he got it done.
Joe Biden has had a rough couple weeks. While the fallout from his debate performance continues, Democrats are desperately trying to shift the conversation back to policy. So Malcolm Kenyatta, who you saw in that video, is saying he doesn't care if Joe Biden has physical or cognitive impairments. He's looking at the record. And that is something Democrats really need to sell going into November. I'm really curious about that point. Do you care, personally, if Joe Biden has a cognitive impairment with the record that he has? Does it factor into who you're going to vote for, or whether or not you think he should step aside? Leave a comment below because I'm really curious what everyone thinks. We're seeing a ton of conversation around what Joe Biden should do. And we see a lot of people talking on behalf of voters. And it's really tough to get an accurate read on the situation because the coverage of it has just become so hysterical. Take a look at this.
When we're talking about poop, Greg, there is only one person to go to on this table.
I am an expert.
You are an expert. She doesn't
I produce
care.
a lot of it.
What?
I produce a lot of it.
Poop?
Yes.
Okay.
Literally, figuratively, metaphorically.
All right, back to the question. Whoopi doesn't care if he poops his pants.
Well, you know what? We're not worried about what's in his pants. It's up here. He's got for brains. But it's the thing is with Whoopi is that it's just that's an example of pure selfishness.
Meanwhile, there are Democrats who are calling for Biden to step aside. Representative Adam Smith, who is a top-ranking Democrat in the House, explicitly said so.
I think it's become clear that he's not the best person to carry the Democratic message. And here's the thing. We have an incredibly strong message and record to run on. And in all respect to the president, he's done a great job. Okay, when you look at where the economy was when he came in, how our economy dealt with COVID so much better than any other economy in the world, the progress that we're making, the unemployment rate, stock market. Look, there's a lot of work left to do. Housing's too expensive. Income inequality is still too great. But we've made progress on that too. The president has shown he is not capable of delivering that message in an effective way.
Just because, I shouldn't say just, because that 90-minute debate was a lot, but is this based entirely on that event? No.
There was concerns leading up to it in the terms of the president's ability to deliver a message, and it hasn't gotten better since the debate.
He doesn't think that Joe Biden is the best choice, and he's really worried about Biden's ability to perform as the campaign goes on. For him and some other people, they see the debate not just as an isolated incident, they see this as a pattern. And this is where I think Biden actually might feel the heat. There's been a ton of conversation around what AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Ilhan Omar, and other progressives are going to do on this issue. And I think people need to understand it's not going to be the progressives that have the leverage here. It is the moderates. If you have a group of moderates in the House or the Senate, or even House or Senate Dem leadership calling on Biden to step aside, that would be more impactful. Joe Biden and his campaign are not going to respond to calls from the squad. Why would they? They don't really like progressives, and they aren't going to listen or take directions from progressives about their election plans. This is really significant to me. And he made another point that I think we really need to take to heart, and that's about transparency. Take a look.
You have an issue about a candidacy based on ability and health concerns. So what do? You try to resolve them. One, you put the candidate out for 2 hours and let them take questions from the press, show not just phone interviews and not just, George did a great job, but 22-minute taped interview is not what we're talking about. A full hour and a half, 2 hours, take questions, blah, blah, blah. And you put out all the health records. But they're not doing either of those.
I know it's difficult, especially if you were firmly in the pro-Biden camp from 2020 on. It's difficult for people to acknowledge that he's doing something similar to Trump. Not as bad as Trump, but similar. And that is a lack of transparency. During the campaign in 2020, Biden promised he would be transparent with his medical records. And now we're at a moment where there are questions about his health, about a potential cognitive decline, and his team is refusing to release those records. We should want transparency across the board for everyone. everyone. And it's okay to admit that your party's leader isn't doing what you would want. We should want consistency across the board. But the thing is that lack of transparency is only going to make that media narrative worse. The longer they hold out and the more they obfuscate, the more it creates situations like this.
Nikki Haley, one of the Republican candidates, is calling for mental competency tests for those politicians over the age of 75. What do you think about that?
Ridiculous.
Would your husband ever take one of those?
I mean, we haven't even discussed, we would never even discuss something like that.
And all of this undercuts Joe Biden and his campaign's ability to frame the election and sell their platform. If they want to run on the record, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They can't do that because the dominant conversation is Joe Biden's health. And you have prominent Democrats like Adam Schiff recognizing that.
But the performance on the debate stage, I think, rightfully raised questions among the American people about whether the president has the vigor to defeat Donald Trump. And this is an existential race. Given Joe Biden's incredible record, given Donald Trump's terrible record, he should be mopping the floor with Donald Trump. Joe Biden is running against a criminal. It should not be even close, and there's only one reason it is close, and that's the president's age.
It really shouldn't be a close contest. Donald Trump's presidency is defined by January 6th and 2 impeachment hearings. He is now a convicted felon, and he has many more cases looming. It really should not be close, and Biden certainly shouldn't be down. Even the most loyal party line Democrats can't even get past this. It's too hard to ignore. What we saw on that debate stage was alarming, so it's only natural that the media and voters have questions. Dismissing it as an isolated incident kind of does a disservice to everybody who saw it, because that doesn't seem like an isolated incident when you look at everything else that we've seen from Biden over the years. And there is a pattern of him getting slower and more confused and showing an increased inability to speak. That sets up the right for a wave of attacks that takes the focus away from that platform, away from all of those legislative accomplishments, and onto something about Joe Biden, the person, not Joe Biden, the president or the candidate. Joe Biden, the candidate, has accomplishments that he can talk to voters about. Joe Biden, the human being, has a lot of question marks. People are genuinely concerned about his ability to lead. And it's not just about how will he get through November, it's how will he get through the next 4 years. And this is one thing I've seen a lot of people, even the most supportive Democrats, point out, that with these issues comes an inability to push back against Donald Trump's lies on the debate stage, for instance, or set up a conversation and frame it around things like Project 2025, things that are very real and very dangerous and would sway voters. But instead, you're on your back foot. You're playing defense and you're leading from a position of fear because you're so worried about how people might attack you. You come off as defensive. What you need is somebody strong. And the thing is, I don't think Joe Biden can be that candidate because these issues now define him. And more than it just being a debate issue, those clips are going to live on, and they're going to live on in ads. Millions of voters around the country are going to see those ads on repeat almost every commercial break, especially in swing states when we get closer to the election. It's going to be impossible to ignore, and you're going to plant that seed of doubt in people who might otherwise be on your side or cast a ballot for Biden in November. You cannot risk throwing the election to Trump. It's easy to dismiss now without thinking about the long-term consequences, but I cannot stress enough how rational and objective people need to be and recognize this is a moment where you can actually affect the outcome of the election if you use your voice. And sitting on your hands and insisting Joe Biden won the primary and there's nothing you can do about it, when you see the poll numbers, you see him losing in swing states, and you see people disapproving of him more than any president in recent years, that should send alarm bells ring through your head and prompt you to action.